Hi, I'm Angie Hilton and welcome to Unbreakable Entrepreneurs. As business owners, major challenges are inevitable. So how do we steel ourselves to weather the storms? Here, you'll find real-life stories of resilience, as well as tips from thought leaders and mental health experts on how to become unbreakable entrepreneurs. It's easy to see how accountant Renee Jovic has been so successful in business with her driven nature and optimistic outlook. People warm to her instantly, and she knows the importance of relationships in business. A hard work ethic is in her DNA, but she's finally learned to pull back, enjoy the finer things in life, and find balance. I'd love to welcome today, we've got Renee, I want to say Jovic, but I've just learned it's Jovic, and I'm going to get that right every single time we talk now, Renee. Jovic.
Perfect, gold star.
And Renee is from Zenith Business Advisory. Welcome. How are you doing today?
I'm really well, and thanks for inviting me along, Angie. I was very flattered when I got the message asking me. So
Wow.
I've been listening to these podcasts, so I'm in esteemed company.
Oh, good. And you certainly have a brain that a lot of people want to pick with your knowledge of business. You've been in business for so long now, haven't you? And you've seen the ups and the downs. Can you tell people a little bit about where you're at the moment and what you've done, a snapshot of what you've done in the past?
Okay, so I started out in accounting, in my early 20s. And at 30 years of age, I was at a couple of different practices in Geelong. And I always said I'd love to set up my own business, but, you got to be comfortable in your job and you sort of keep going. But the practice I was at decided to shut their Geelong operation the year I turned 30. So I was 29 at the time, and they were moving everything back to Werribee. So that sort of gave me the push just to go out and set up my own business. It was like in a matter of a month, I had to get my public practice with CPA. I already had my CPA, but they have extra qualifications. I had to set up an office. I had to get public liability insurance. I just had to go bang. And I often say to clients, don't set up a business in a hurry, but I had to do it. So I did that, and I actually set up from home at the time. Fortunately, my husband had a very good job, and we didn't actually have kids at the time, so there wasn't a lot of risk. If it didn't work out, I always could have got another job. So from there, the business just grew and grew, and I had a couple of kids, children in between, who are now 16 and 14 and a half. Mm-hmm. And I ended up getting staff, moving out to a big office, and the practice grew. I think I had 3,000 clients at one stage.
3,000, and how many staff?
The largest stage I had 8 staff.
Oh my goodness.
And a couple of subcontractors. So yeah, it grew quite rapidly in a matter of about 14, 15. It doesn't sound rapidly, but when you're running a business by yourself, you just get caught on the treadmill and you just keep going.
Was that something you had envisaged to get to that size, or was that a surprise to you as well?
It was a surprise to me as well, but I think when you're so caught up in business, and I mean, you say 3,000 clients, but some of those could be one group. Some businesses might have 10 trusts and 5 related individuals, but it's still every one of those you're responsible to the tax office and Australian Securities Commission and everything else. So yeah, it grew, and I didn't have a business partner. So it got so big by that stage, it was like you either had to get bigger and get more staff and bring in senior management, or, you kind of stagnated where you were, but you weren't big and you weren't little. So It was back in 2018. I just went, I can't do this anymore. I've had enough. So I made the call back then to start to make a change.
So before you made that call, going back to working on your own without a business partner, did part of you really miss having that person you could bounce things off and make decisions with you, or did you like the fact that you could make all the decisions on your own?
I had a mentor he's a very good friend, and we actually shared the business premises. We had 2 separate businesses. He was great. I mean, he was a different business from accounting and business advisory, but he was in the financial industry. So he was fantastic just to bounce things off. We'd catch up for a coffee outside the office every couple of weeks. Between us, he had a great team, I had a great team. But I often said I'd love a business partner, but I've seen so many partnerships not work out. And when I did make the decision to sell the business, they asked me to stay on as a partner. And my thoughts was, having been by myself for so long, making all the decisions, I don't think I'd make a very good business partner.
I can relate to
I'm
that.
honest.
Yeah, I can totally relate. It's like, oh, but I like
Yeah.
my ideas. My ideas are really good.
Yeah. And you're answerable to other people.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
so
Mm.
you feel a little bit, yeah, it's a bit more freedom being by yourself in a way.
Mm. Now, I heard you face a little bit of opposition with people thinking that maybe females couldn't become partner back in the day. Would that be right?
Yeah, that was right. I do recall someone basically tiptoeing around that, saying, putting men in management roles and saying women not always are partners, because they go off and have children and take time out from work. But I did have one accountant I worked for. He pointed out that at Davidson's at the time there was one female partner. So he always had the belief. But a lot of others within the practice I was in didn't have the belief. So as my daughter said, you kind of, I can't say this, stuck it up them.
You can say it. Go on. You stuck it up them. Good on you.
Yeah, and she doesn't believe that people would say that, because our girls these days, they're told they can do anything, which is amazing.
So good. The sky's the limit, right?
Yeah, and I see it now at CPA conferences and that too. There's a lot more females in the room. It's probably now sitting at 40, 60, where it used to be sitting at about 15, 85, if that.
Amazing. And you led the charge.
Yeah.
Woohoo.
Oh, I don't know. There's a few older ones than me that led the charge, but yeah.
That's great.
It was a very male-dominated industry back then. It's changed a lot now.
Have you always had that drive? If someone tells you you can't do something, you want to prove them wrong?
Yes. It's probably a stubbornness, and it's not a great trait sometimes. But yeah, I've always been one to strive and do the best I can. And I was like that at school, and that probably comes from my parents. Both my parents worked. And I was only joking with Dad on the weekend. I still remember him saying to me in grade 5, when I got 99 on a maths test, he said, "Where's the other 1%?" He was joking tongue in cheek, but I still remember it. He says he was joking. But I was always always wanted to do better and always wanted to achieve. And my mum will say I was very independent. And now I'm seeing that in my 16-year-old, and it's driving me nuts.
Come on, hey?
Yeah.
So that driving force, and it sounds like a bit of perfectionism, maybe. Has that been also your biggest challenge as well as your biggest strength?
Yes, it is, because you don't know when to stop. And you often you've got to learn to say no to things. And I went through that a few years ago. Probably, I was out at every networking event, and I'd be presenting at different seminars, and I'd be going up to, I got to the point I had a Melbourne office that I was going to one day a week, because I just kept wanting more, and I just kept challenging. But I also was one of those people who, if I wanted something done, I'd do it myself. So I used to have my staff saying, "You need to let us do it. That's what we're employed for." But it was always that perfectionism and drive and just wanting to get things done. And it is, I'm difficult to live with too, probably because I'm like, why is the kitchen not perfect? And why is it pick up your shoes, do this, do that. And probably as a boss, I would strive to try and create that organisation, and that with all my staff as well. And everyone has different personalities.
As a boss, reflecting on that, what sort of environment did you like to create?
I like to create an environment of freedom, bit of freedom, flexibility, success. And I tried to give all my staff a lot of independence, but I also tried to be very, very supportive of everything they did. And it's human nature. You have bad days, staff have bad days, whereas employers have bad days. But I still keep in touch with a lot of my prior staff. And a couple of them have only said to me recently, "You were like the best boss." But I think that's because I learned from one of the firms I was at where that was very clock watching. I swore I never wanted to be that boss. But I did have it staff do take advantage of being a little bit flexible and friendly. Unfortunately, not everyone meets the same way.
What would you
Mm.
put your success down to in that business? What are some of the key ingredients you think that made it successful?
It was always about the clients and about the staff, and I was very open and honest, and I created relationships with them.
Mm.
So I wasn't about, I was very hands-on in the business. Even when I got to the point I had a lot of other staff, probably still 80% of the clients still saw me.
Mm-hmm.
And that was probably getting to the point that that was a bit of a, I needed to be able to, if you're in a bigger firm with other partners and more of the senior level accountants, then it's very different. But
Mm.
I think it was, and I wanted my clients to be successful.
Mm.
And it was all around relationships. And I built everything around relationships. So I'd say that's what it was.
Incredible. When it's your own business, it can be hard to put up boundaries and know when to stop. Do you think you were good at that, or was it you'd get home and be working into the night, or how did it work?
I would get home and be working into the night and a lot of weekends. Having said that, on the weekends, I tried to plan it because my children, I went back to work a week after. When you have your own business, you can't take, so I was back at work a week after having each of my children. Having said that, you could take them into work as newborns or whatever. But I still tried to make the weekends was always about our family time. And I would work on weekends around their activities, such as we used to have basketball train at 8 a.m. on a Sunday morning. So the kids would go down to basketball training and I would work for a few hours while they were at training, so that then we had the Sunday afternoon together as a family.
Mm.
And I always took, until the pandemic hit, I always took like nearly the whole of December and January off.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. So I sort of worked really, really hard to get to that point that I could take the bit. You're still on emails and everything, but to get to the break.
Yep. And did you ever experience that mother guilt of, having the balance out for a while and then sort of really having to rein it back in?
I did experience a lot of mother guilt. I actually was fortunate enough that we had a nanny, and also very fortunate my husband's a school teacher, so he was always around. And I often say he was the better parent, but it's a lot of give and take. He'll take that title. And I think it was in 2018, I sort of turned around and went, they're now teenagers and they need me more than they needed me when they were a baby. They don't remember me not being around. My son will say, yeah, I do. And I'm like, no, you don't. And I had moments where I'd look at other mums out pushing prams and I'm like, did I miss out on something? But I don't think I would have been the person. It wasn't me, I don't think. But yeah, you naturally have mother guilt no matter what you choose to do. So
how do you
I think I've set a good example.
Sorry, what was that?
I think I've set a good example.
Absolutely. And now that they're moving into teenage years, I think in exactly the same scenario as you. My daughter's nearly 16 and my son's nearly 14. How are you managing? These are tricky years.
It's quite funny now. It's almost at the point that the weekends, unless they're at their sport where we've got to drive them, as you know, you've got one that's in the basketball environment too. So
yeah.
Both mine are. So it's a lot of driving. It's a lot of commitment. And their commitment is sort of that 5 or 6 days a week, both of them. That's fantastic. I think that Friday night car ride is amazing. But we've had a few weekends now where they're both so busy with their social lives that we're back to almost empty nesters again.
Oh.
Yeah, so you've got to run them around, yes, but they're often like, oh, no, we've got plans or we've got this, and then we've just got to pick them up and get them to training and get them to basketball.
Yeah.
But they're both pretty good kids. I'm pretty lucky.
So you're not having the hormonal surges and the tantrums and the
No, not too badly. There's a couple there. There's a little bit of teenage boy attitude coming through.
Yes.
And he's bigger than me, so it's I think it's typical of that year 9. He's year 8, but that year 8, year 9 age group.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and we had a couple of things with my daughter, but she's now coming out the other end, going into her VCE and pretty focused. So
cool. Yep. She's got a mother's brain.
Oh, she might be smarter than me because she.
I'm curious. People are often one way or the other, right or left brain heavy, more creative or more academic. Would you say you're more balanced, or would you say you're not as creative as you could be? Or
I'm not very creative.
yeah.
I did play musical instruments and was in the school band and everything up till about year
Mhm.
10. Um, Always been very sporty and active.
Mm.
But yeah, I'm much more the academic stream than, yeah,
Yep.
definitely can't sing.
You have the reverse brain of mine by the sound of it. I've got the creative stuff, but don't talk to me about maths. Never so.
Yeah,
Now tell me, when you got to, you'd been in business for all that time, it was thriving. You went on a holiday for your long service to Croatia.
my long service leave, yeah.
Yeah. And you had a light bulb moment by the sound of it. What happened then?
Yeah, I did. I'd always joked that at 45 I was going to step back from the business. When you start out a business, it's easy to have those plans. And I don't think if it was in the back of my mind or just being away for 2 months at that peak time of the year, because I hadn't had a July off since university. And I just went, I just don't want to do this anymore. I think a lot of people have had that through the pandemic, and I think I just had it 2 years earlier. So I just lost my passion and my mojo. And my senior accountant, when I got back, said, she said, often says to me, I had dinner with her last week, you were different. And I said, I think I realized I was burnt out and I just couldn't stay on that treadmill. And I think spending 2 months as a family and seeing the simple way family and friends and that live overseas, they're not all about keeping up with the Joneses, the big houses. It's, going out for dinner all the time. They live a very simple life and they're happy. So I kind of went, I just don't think I want to do this anymore.
So you felt you were really successful, but were you happy at the time?
I was happy, but I think I was also so caught up in just to keep going. Yeah. I wasn't I wouldn't say it was depressed or stressed or anything. I think it was just I needed that moment to reassess and to be off the treadmill and to realize that you may have to the outside world look like everything's amazing. But deep down, probably for the 12 months before that, it was just that dread of, another week starts and then having to deal with staff and it's not good for you because it starts to eat away at you. It starts to tire you.
Did it affect your sleep?
Oh, yeah, I'm a bad sleeper anyway. I still am, Angie.
Your brain's going, isn't it? Yeah.
I'm one of these people who, if I wake up at 3 a.m., there's no going back to sleep, especially if the dog in the neighbourhood's barking. Not our dog, but there's one that barks a lot.
Oh, God.
But I kind of have always tried to maintain my stress through a lot of exercise. I say that's my brain, that's my brain space. It's not just about physical, it's time out for me and it's brain space.
What's your exercise of choice?
I do go to a personal trainer, but I also I love doing a lot of cardio or spin or running. I lashed out last year during one of those lockdowns and bought a new fandangled treadmill that lets me run all over the world.
Oh,
so I love it.
Like a virtual reality thing or something.
Yeah, it is.
Do you get to wear goggles and run?
No, it's got a screen and you run with different personal trainers and everything. So
that's great.
It's fantastic. It's almost addictive.
Oh, and is that you just have that in your lounge room or something?
We've got a gym. We gutted the garage and set up a bunker, as we call it, with all the sporting memorabilia and a gym and a pool table. And
fun.
So, yes, that's great. And I say that's more mental health than, it's just that's probably what I've always, and I used to play netball and, I've always sort of gone to the gym. It's just something I've done.
Yeah. You're an active mind, active body kind of lady. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
So tell me, when you made that decision and everything shuts down, you've decided that's enough. How do you move forward for the next step? And was that a big process in itself?
I wanted to keep helping people. And I still had a passion for that consulting, helping business owners achieve or to work out their own succession plan and exit strategy. So I was fortunate enough to find a firm that I really clicked with, that I knew my clients would be in safe hands. And I kept probably about 15% of my clients.
Mm-hmm.
So those clients, I go to them, I'm involved, I know their staff, so it's a lot more on a personal level. It's almost like I work with them more, a very one-on-one, but I don't have all the distractions of many, many other different businesses and staff and that sort of thing. So I was fortunate that I made the decision in the August. By the December, I had some interest to buy the practice, and it was a firm that wanted to break into the Geelong market. And then by 30th of June 2019, the contracts were signed.
Fantastic.
And I was out of there. And I know we were flying up to Queensland the day the contracts were signed. So, and then I wasn't even emotional. And when they actually took my shingle down off the building and changed the name of the business, there was no emotion at all, which to me says I was ready.
Absolutely. Gosh.
Yeah. And I wanted to do other things.
Yes. And what you're doing now, do you feel like that has fulfilled that desire to do something new?
It has, but it's growing again. So I picked up a couple of new clients. I almost need a PA again.
This is a challenge. Like,
it's a challenge,
or do you just keep a lid on it? This is how you can navigate that. Are you still deciding?
I'm still deciding. At the moment, it's contained, and I've taken on a couple of board roles, which feels like I'm giving back a little bit to the community, and that's sort of the way I'd love to go as well, with a couple of board roles in not-for-profits or health or sport. I'm quite passionate about sport, so yeah, I'm doing that, and that's work that is, it's a different type of work.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have your husband sort of tapping you on the shoulder every now and then saying that's enough now? Like, how does he keep you more grounded?
Sometimes he'll go, do you really need to go to that? Because I know this week I've had a few things in the mornings, and then I had to go to Melbourne of choice to see a client that I'd been meeting on Zoom for the last 2 years. And then there was an accident, so it took 2 hours to get to Melbourne. So that was like, oh my God. But no, I think he knows, that's the way I roll. And he's very, very busy too, because he's very involved in coaching, and he's actually on a committee of one of the basketball clubs separate to what I do. So he teaches year 12, so he's quite busy as well.
Wow.
So yeah, we are very much that we take time every school holidays.
Yep.
And
all 2 months and get away.
Yeah, get away. So very big on taking the break.
Yes, I heard someone saying once about if you have or yin and yang, the fire or the more relaxed energy, if you have a yin year, you've got to have a yang year. So balance it out. If you have a yin month, have a yang month, and find that constant balance in your life. I mean, it's easier said than done, isn't it? But it sounds like
it is.
You always prioritize that, which is amazing.
Yeah, I try to. Try to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the boards you're on, obviously the chamber and basketball. Tell me about those.
Okay, so I've been on the chamber board nearly coming up a year, and that was real honour to be, get on that. But I love the way Geelong is going as a city. I'm actually not originally a Geelong girl. I'm originally from Ballarat. It's very similar. And I just, even, I go most Sunday mornings, we head out for a big walk and do the whole of East Geelong and the waterfront, and just get some air, and just the progress going on in Geelong is amazing. There's amazing businesses, amazing people. So it's pretty exciting to be part of the chamber that is there supporting all this growth, and just the networks and the people that you can build relationships with. So, and there's some great people on the board that I'm learning from, because you can never stop learning.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, there's some fantastic people, and there's great people working at the chamber too. So it's a really good team. Yeah,
No, I love it too. And the
yeah.
basketball, what sort of involvement do you have to have with the basketball?
Okay, so I'm actually the chair of the board at the basketball. So I've been doing that now. My first board meeting was Friday the 13th of March as the world started to go mad.
Oh,
So,
wow.
so I've walked into our first board meeting. We're like, are we going to be playing tonight or not? So that straight away was challenges that you never would have seen coming. And then I stepped up as the chair 12 months later. So I've chaired the board through half the pandemic.
Gosh.
And it's an organisation that is very based on people going to the stadiums, people playing basketball, and we had staff, and you know, their livelihoods relied on people playing sport, and being an indoor sport, we were one of the last sports to go back. So, you know, all credit to the whole organisation that we got through that and maintained the amazing team we have down there. And now the sport's getting bigger and better than ever. It's really grown a lot in Geelong again.
It sounds like no matter what circumstance you're in, you thrive under pressure or big challenges. Would you say that's true? Do you ever get overwhelmed with stress, or do you think you just rise up to occasions?
The people who probably caught my stress is when they get yelled at for not putting shoes away at home.
You take it all out on the family.
I take it all out on them. No. I mean, everybody gets a little bit, you have your moments where you go, oh my God, this is too hard. I don't think I've had those moments as badly probably since I made the decision that it was time to exit my business. I mean, I'm still in business, but to exit, I think that had reached its time, and it was time to step back and do a few things, not just for me, but that were giving back. You know, the board roles and being around those board roles affect what happens for my kids, and, you know, just taking a little bit more time out, you know, just enjoying. Like, I don't work as hard as I used to work. I know I don't.
Yep.
So I know I can take 2 days off and, you know, do things with the kids, or, you know, take them somewhere, just, you know, out of school holidays or whatever. So
yeah, and have that flexibility.
Yeah.
What would you say to someone starting out in business, really wanting to succeed like you have? What are your words of wisdom for newbies?
Well, it's funny when you say, I don't actually think much about what I've done till you start to write it down. It's just been my journey. And it's funny, you don't think about it, but I think you've just got to take the risk, and you've got to back yourself. And you've just got to go, I can do this. You've got to set yourself up right from the beginning, have the right support networks around you, such as the chamber, such as having the right, having the right accountants, having the right support from family and friends. I mean, I have amazingly supportive family. My parents are very supportive. My in-laws are supportive. You know, so it's having the right people around you, the right partner, because so often I've seen a lot of relationships not work because they're not on the same page. And just take the risk, just go for it, because you can always find something to fall back on.
What was your
You'll always find.
What would you say your biggest lesson was that you can reflect on?
Learning to ask for help. So admitting you can't do everything. We have this idea that we can, but you can't. So you've got to admit that you need help. You've got to admit that, yes, I need to put on another staff member if you can afford it. Or, yes, just be honest with people. Just say, can someone, you know, pick my kids up? Because I was never one that would ask people to give my kids a lift to that. It was like, I've got to do it, or I've got to work it out, or we've got to do it ourselves. So ask for help, and admit sometimes if you are a little bit got too much going on. And learn to say no.
Yeah.
That's probably my biggest weakness.
You have that written up on your wall at home.
Yeah, I need it. That's my mantra. Learn to say no.
And where do you get your joy and your happiness from the most?
Well, my family. I love, it's just, as it's probably a cliche, but everyone says their family. And just, I suppose, living. I've seen a few. You've just got to get out there and have a go and enjoy life.
Mm.
And if you fail, you fail, but you learn from that and you just keep moving forward. But yeah. And I do love to travel. And so I'm very excited that we're allowed to travel again.
Yes. One of our wellbeing consultants talks about having two things in your back pocket to look forward to all the time. And I think that's great. If we're working hard, we need a reason to be working so hard because we get a reward.
Exactly.
You agree?
Even just have that massage booked, like just something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And lastly, I can see our time ticking down here. Lastly, what can you tell me what you see for our beautiful city? If you could envisage anything for it to prosper and move forward, what would you like to happen?
I see Geelong, it's just growing. Like you see all those cranes everywhere and you see all the people that have moved down here, and the roadworks drive me nuts going to Torquay because my parents live down there. But, it's Geelong is just coming ahead in leaps and bounds. And I remember sitting there with one of my Melbourne clients years ago when it was all doom and gloom for Geelong to people that didn't live here. And I remember turning around to them going, we're not just about Alcara and Ford. We are an academic city. We are a health city. We have an amazing bay. We have amazing business people and leaders. And I think Geelong's now just backed itself and big companies have come down here and the lifestyle's easier. We're 40 minutes to Melbourne if you want a city feel. But with children and activities and everything's so easy in Geelong.
We've got the best of both worlds and you can get a parking space so much easier, right?
Exactly. Oh, I mean, I'm lucky I live central so I can walk everywhere, so it's even better.
Even better.
Yeah.
And quickly before we finish up, why should people become chamber members?
People should become chamber members because it's all about support and it's all about like-minded people learning from other people. It just gives you a sense of community as well. You walk into one of those events and yes, they can be overwhelming. And even now as a board member, I still walk in, it's quite in your, like it's in your face. And as soon as you spot someone, it's fine. And then sometimes you don't even have time to finish your conversation because someone else is there. So it's community and it's education, it's support. The support through the pandemic has been amazing for the chamber, and I think that's been great for a lot of business people.
Yep, wonderful. Thank you so much for your time, and it's so great to pick your brains. You're very inspiring and optimistic. That's the overall thing. I can see you're such a driven woman. So I'm ready to get out there and have a crack myself.
Oh, thank you, Angie. No, I was really excited and flattered to be asked.
Yeah, great.
Because as I said, sometimes we don't sit back and look at ourselves. So
absolutely. So I will see you at the next chamber mingle very soon. Next after
yes,
5.
2 weeks.
Woo-hoo.
Yes. See you there.
Down there for a boogie. They don't actually dance at these things, do they?
No, they don't. We'll have to wait for Business Excellence Awards.
Oh, yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Thanks, Renee. I'll see you again
Thanks,
soon.
Angie.
I'm Angie Hilton, and thanks for listening to Unbreakable Entrepreneurs Podcast. If you've enjoyed this, don't forget to subscribe and head to geelongchamber.com.au for more wellbeing tips. This has been brought to you by the Geelong Chamber of Commerce and the Partners in Wellbeing program.